All right, Nick, after nearly 6.5 years, welcome back to the Strength Running Podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
You were actually our first guest back in episode number 1.
That's
And right
crazy to
back,
think about. Yeah,
yeah, I
I
know,
think I
right?
said it had to be 5+ years ago because I think the last time we talked, I was just launching Run Gum. So it's gone by like that.
Yeah, I know. Now we're here in episode 290. You were
Congrats.
building Run Gum back when we first started. And,
hmm
when we first chatted, I think it was the fall of 2016. And I don't think you had started your YouTube channel at that point.
No, I
So you've
launched
been
it.
busy.
Yeah, I launched the YouTube channel to kind of overlap with the last 2 weeks of my pro running career. I knew I wanted to be a YouTuber when I retired from running. And I was like, oh, I should vlog the last 2 weeks of my pro running career. That'd be kind of cool. And so I literally just like, hey guys, I'm getting ready for USA's. Today I'm doing a 7 mile easy run. Like, come run with me. And I think we went from like 0 subscribers to maybe like 3,000 subscribers in the first couple weeks, which if you're a YouTuber, that's the hardest thing. It's just getting off the ground, getting to 3,000 subs. Everything after that, you actually have an audience that you're entertaining. But getting off the ground on a YouTube channel is so hard. So I thank my wife and my business partner and everybody around me who encouraged me to start a YouTube channel at that time. It was fortuitous.
Yeah, it sure was. And you've been very busy since then, not just with Run Gum, but also the YouTube channel. I think now it has well over 1 million subscribers. So give us a little bit of a rundown over the last 6 years. I mean, what has been going on with
Yeah.
you? What's new with Nick
So
Symmonds?
I retired from pro running in 2017, and I I knew I could find a way to replace the income. I knew I could keep working out. What I couldn't figure out was how I was going to keep entertaining people because it had become such a critical part of who I was and what I love to do. And that was step on the track and throw my hands up and sign autographs and take pictures. And yes, there's an ego part of that I like to feed, but I just wanted to keep having this interaction with the crowd and with the audience. And if I wasn't going to be able to entertain them on the track, maybe I could entertain them in my YouTube videos. And that was kind of the idea behind it is I want to make YouTube videos to keep this relationship with these fans that I've created over the last 12 years as a pro runner. And so certainly in the beginning, it was just fun little running tutorial videos. Hey guys, this is how you run a better 800, or this is how you get out of starting blocks. And, we got to an audience of about 20,000 runners doing that. And then I kind of felt like, well, I didn't really get into this to educate. I got into this game to entertain. How could I be more entertaining? And I kind of watched what some of the basketball YouTubers were doing, where they would just like show up to a basketball court somewhere and play pickup and record it. And I'm like, what if we did that for running? What if I just took two cones out to Breeze Trail and I set them up 40 yards from each other and said, all right, if you beat me in a race, I'll give you $100. And that video went super viral. I mean, it got like 5 million views in a month. And I was like, okay, I think I found my niche here, which I called, fun with running at the time. Like how can I be the most entertaining running YouTuber there is? And we got to probably about 300 subscribers doing that, 300,000 subscribers, excuse me. And then it was really, okay, we've plateaued in the running niche. How do we expand beyond that even? And it became fun with fitness, which is kind of where we are today. And we do 3 different types of videos, I would say. They're either running focused, calisthenics focused, or lifting focused. And I've been working hard to try to bring those 3 cohorts together. Like, what's a concept that I could do that would like unify all of my different, focuses. And so we could talk about that a little later, but I built an obstacle course that will hopefully unify all 3 cohorts.
Yeah, I definitely want to touch on the obstacle course race, but I got to say, with what you've done with your YouTube channel, you're one of the people that took some of the more mainstream, fun, entertaining videos and applied them to running. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I was actually interested in watching
a
these
lot of
videos
people, a lot of
because
people, and
I wasn't interested beforehand,
one of
when
my
it was
favorite
just random
yeah, I mean, I
stuff.
totally hear you. One of my favorite messages I get is people who like, I never liked running, but after watching your videos, I started running, and now I'm signed up for my first 5K or something. What a great way to like feel that we're providing a service to the community a little bit. Just inspiring people to find running. And I think what it comes down to is that running at the pro level or even the high school collegiate level, it's very organized and very pre-planned and packaged. And I understand why it is that way, but I always felt like running is this very free thing. It doesn't cost a lot. You don't need a lot of gear. You can do it anywhere. And so I thought we could bring that freedom to the concepts. And so obviously there's the pop-up races, but then just, every year I host something called the Nick Symmonds Track Classic, where I just say, I'm going to be at this track at this time, and we're going to run this event. Everyone's welcome. There's going to be prize money, and we'll just make a video out of it. And it's one of my best performing series. Like, we made a video last year of a high jump, just same thing, pop-up high jump. I got the school to let me use their high jump pit, and about 30 kids came out and tried high jump for the first time, and it got 2 million views. So I'm saying, like, track and field running, I mean, it's a popular sport. It's the most participated sport at the high school level by numbers. There are millions and millions of kids that love this sport, but when they go onto YouTube, they want to be entertained. And so how do we entertain them in a way that's going to, keep their attention? And I think that we've started to really, like, create content that's not only inspirational and motivating, but also entertaining.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you got all these kids out to like try the high jump, which is such
Yeah.
a
Hard.
admittedly
It's a technical
niche.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, very niche. And my running origin story is kind of funny because as a middle schooler, I was second in the school in the high jump as like a 4'11", little
Mm,
skinny kid.
yeah.
And then I went out for the cross country team because my parents told me it was like track. So I actually thought I was doing a high jump in cross
Oh,
country.
nice.
Showed up in long mesh shorts and basketball
Yeah.
shoes, and quickly learned the ins and outs of cross country. But I love that you've made it more entertaining because I come from this same organized high school and collegiate track and cross country background where my thinking about the sport is very organized, and sometimes you just have to get away from that and
Yeah.
just have fun with it, be a little bit more free. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is in 2017, when you retired, you said something, Nick, that has lodged in my brain, and
Good.
I haven't stopped thinking about it since you
Oh, I'm
said it.
excited to hear it.
I'm going to paraphrase, but you said
Okay.
something along the lines of, I have never been more in love with running, but at this point in my life, I really can't do the training anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'd love for
100%.
you to unpack that a little bit because I think there's so much wisdom
Sure.
and nuance to that.
So if you had, you know, pulled me at any time of my life, when I started running in eighth grade, Nick, do you love running? I'd be like, hell no, I hate this. I'm only doing it because I'm too small to play soccer or ice hockey, which is what I want to be doing. Even in college, Nick, you run at the Division III level. You're not getting a scholarship. You must be doing this because you love it. No, I'm doing it because I feel like I want to see how good I can get, you know? Or as a pro, Nick, you've devoted your entire life to this, made so many sacrifices. You must love it. And I'm like, no, this is my job. And I love my job, but I don't love running necessarily. So I never had this true, like, I wasn't, there are definitely runners out there that just love to run. You know what I mean? I wasn't that guy. But as I could see my career coming to an end, and as I could see that my body wasn't performing the way it had before, there almost became this like infatuation with it. Like, oh my God, I do love to run so much. And I love nothing more than just going out and pounding, 9 miles in an hour. Just go out there and, that clip where you're just like in the zone and flowing, and miles are coming effortlessly. I forgot how much, I guess I'd taken it for granted. That's how I would describe it. I'd taken it for granted how great that feeling is. And now at 40 or almost 40, I'm 39, I can't hardly run at all. Like I feel that I wish I could go back and kind of like shake young Nick and be like, you don't know how great this is. Certainly when we talked in 2017, I was getting to that point where I could no longer train at the level that I wanted to train at. I could no longer train at the level I needed to train at to continue to be a pro. And I was trying to just savor every single mile that I could. And I had this similar feeling the other day. Someone said, hey, Nick, it must be really depressing that you can't run the way you used to. And I said, I don't know if I'd call it depressing. I'm bummed that I can't run the way I used to, but I appreciate every mile that I'm able to run infinitely more today than when I was 25 and took it for granted. If I go out and run a 3 mile run and it's not pretty, it's like me just like waddling around at 8 minute pace. It's, I just can't tell you how grateful I am for every single step that I get, that my knees and hips don't hurt, because they hurt a lot. But if I can go out and just get that 30-minute run in, I just am like so thankful that my body allows me to do that.
Do you think you might have had a longer career or would have wanted a longer career if you had specialized in a longer event that maybe was a little bit less intense than the 800?
Yeah, and I think that's why you see marathoners, 10K runners that go so much farther. It's not just the engine, it's the pieces, right? Like my knees and ankles and hips are just so worn out from the turns. From like, if you go out to a track and you crank an all out 200, and I was doing my 200s in like 21 or 22 seconds, the amount of torque going through your ankles and knees and hips is just through the roof. And so, yeah, I wore the tread out on my tires pretty fast doing that. And I don't regret it, but I do think that if I'd put a lot more of my miles on the trails and the roads, like, a lot of athletes do, you end up having more longevity for sure.
Well, I can't say I've run a 21-second 200, so I'm gonna have to take your word on it for the torque
Yeah,
there.
that'll light you up. You have to be in an ice bath for a good little bit after one of those.
It's funny because I also pretty much stopped training competitively. Obviously I wasn't a pro runner, but stopped training.
Mhm.
And now I'm starting to get a little bit back into it. I'm starting to like
Yeah,
reignite my passion for it. And just last weekend, I ran a 5K at my prior marathon race pace, and
yeah,
I am so
struggling.
thrilled with it. And
Yeah,
it's the same feeling. I am just
yeah,
so excited to be able to perform at a little bit of a level that I maybe used to. You just catch that little bit of a glimpse of
yeah,
your old fitness level, and it's really exciting because like you said, I think at this age, and I think you said you were 39, I'm also
yeah.
39. I'm just so grateful for not only the running I can do now, but just the memories of what I
Yes.
used to be able to do. It's very special to me.
Well, like I'll go back and watch videos of me when I was running in my prime, and I'm like, what was wrong with that guy? Like he was possessed. I mean, seriously, I look at like 25-year-old Dick Simmons. I'm like, that kid really wanted to be a great runner. I don't look at him and I say that kid loved to run, because I know he didn't. I said that kid wanted to be the world's best 800-meter runner. And there's a big difference between those two things. And I was possessed. I was just obsessed with this idea of finding out how good I could be. And I never missed a workout. I never skipped a swim or a lifting session or, cut corners during the training, because I knew I owed it to myself to see just how good I could be. And I could say at 39, looking back, I 100% found how good I could be. I don't think there's a single tenth of a second in there anywhere else. And it's really a nice feeling to be able to get to the end of your pro career and say that. Because not a lot of people get the chance to find out how great they can be, and even fewer, once they turn pro, get the chance to actually finish out a career. Usually, there's injuries or financial issues that make it impossible. And I look back and I'm like, I truly, truly feel that I found every single hundredth of a second that I could find in the 800.
Nick, I think that's really profound. I mean, how many pro runners can say, I realized my potential. I did as much and as good as I could over
If
my
you
career.
if you
Isn't that
interviewed 100
amazing?
pro runners, I'll bet you 97 or 98 would say, "Oh, I probably could have done better here, here, and here." I, I mean, you know me, like I'm the short, stocky kid from Idaho who ran 142.95. It doesn't make sense. Like my body was not meant to be a distance runner, and somehow I, stubbornly put my head down and found a way to run 142.95. I think to this day there's a lot of pundits and commentators who still just like, I don't really know how he did it. My coaches would say he was just stubborn. He wasn't the most physically gifted, but gosh, he was just so freaking stubborn. And that
Yeah.
stubbornness led me, and durable. I don't want to take that away. I think you have to add the fact that I was durable, because so many athletes end up having to, call it quits because of injury. I mean, you could shoot a cannonball at me in my 20s and I'd bounce back and get my workout in the next day. Like I was super, super durable. And that help allowed me to just persistently train day in, day out for years. I didn't peak till I was 28 or 29. So that's actually quite late for most middle distance runners. But having come through, Idaho, a small state, and then the Division 3 ranks, I had really delayed my progression by about 4 to 8 years. So it makes sense why I peaked so late in life.
Yeah. And as a fellow Division 3 guy, I mean, seeing any person come out of D3 and then go on to not only be professional, but to be world class, to win an Olympic medal. I mean, it's almost like a coup. You get every
Yeah,
D3 kid behind
yeah,
you pumping their fist, like he's one of
yeah.
us. And we get so pumped about it.
I'm glad you still
You
remember
know,
that. I mean, nowadays most people think I went to Oregon, especially because I still live here and I shoot all my videos at University of Oregon. They're like, "So what year did you graduate Oregon?" I'm like, "I never even went here," but most people
they
think
wouldn't
I
have let
went
me
back.
in.
Yeah, exactly. It's true.
Oh man. Well, Nick, just because you retired from competitive running, it doesn't mean you're not still working out like a madman. You're doing all
Yeah.
kinds of really cool things these days, from interesting challenges and different disciplines besides just running. So it's a lot more than running. So I'm curious, like what you're up to right now. Do you have a current fitness goal that you're going after?
Yeah. So I set this weird goal a couple years back. Kind of wanted to combine my love of running with my love of lifting. And I saw this guy who did a 500-pound deadlift at a track, right? Like 500-pound deadlift, and then just took off sprinting and ran a sub 5 minute mile. His name's Michael Moralia. And I was like, that's so cool. I want to be able to do that. So at the time, I could run about a 4:30 mile, but I couldn't deadlift more than 300 pounds. And so I said, well, obviously, I got to work on my deadlift. And over 2.5 years, I've built my deadlift up to 500 pounds, but I can't break 5 for the mile now. So it's been this fun balance of trying to lift heavy at a light body weight, which is really hard to do. I've gotten pretty close. I did a 5:04 mile the other day at 189 pounds. So I think if I can lose a little bit more weight and still do the deadlift, I could get it done. But just it's just random challenges like that. It's challenges like I'm in the middle of the CrossFit Open. I like CrossFit a lot. I still run, I still bike, I still swim. If I had to put like a title on what I'm doing these days, it's just like trying to stay in the best shape possible while also maximizing the fun factor. Like I'm not willing to make the sacrifices that I made when I was a pro runner, but I'm also not willing to not work out every day. So I work out 6 or 7 days a week, but I want it to be the most fun that I can have to get those workouts in.
I'm pretty sure I saw Ryan Hall do
Yeah,
exactly that challenge where
yeah.
he deadlifted some obscene weight
I
and
think
then
he
ran
lifted
like a
500 and then ran a mile, but he was like 5:28, and he's like, I don't think I can get under it. And it was an amazing performance, but I don't
yeah.
wish this goal on anybody. Like if you're listening and you think this sounds like a good goal, it is not. It will torture you. It's just so it's easy to lift. I mean this. It's easy to deadlift 500 pounds if you just lift and eat food, and it's easy to train yourself to a sub 5 minute mile if you just diet and exercise like crazy. But to put those two together is like pulling on two ends of a rope, constantly tug of war. And that's where I'm at right now. It's like, well, if I lose weight, I can't lift the 500 pounds. But if I'm heavy and lift the 500 pounds, I'm too heavy to run the 5 minute mile. So I might give it one more shot here in about a month, and then if that doesn't work, I'm gonna have to move on to something else.
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
2+ years now. I've been banging my head against the wall at this one.
Now, what's your PR in the deadlift? Are you
500.
much over the 500
I'm
level?
right at 500. I've lifted 500 one time in my life, but doing it in a gym and doing it at the track and spikes are two totally different things.
Yeah, I can imagine you're not using like lifting shoes and then doing like a triathlon transition where you're changing
Yeah,
into your racing spikes, are you?
yeah, exactly. You've got to deadlift in the spikes, and it's not that hard. But like you're out at the track, and it's just a different environment than the gym where you're used to lifting. Um, just hauling 500 pounds in the barbell out to the track is a nightmare. You know what I mean? Like I got this wheelbarrow and I'm moving 500 pounds of bumper plates out to the track. It's not ideal.
Well, you're still running other races, Nick. I mean, I actually just watched a video from a couple months ago where you raced a bunch of middle schoolers in a 3,000-meter cross
Yeah,
country race.
that was
So
so much fun.
you're still getting after it, man. How sore were you from that
I
3K?
mean, if you watch the video, the middle schoolers beat me. So, like, the fact that I'm losing 3K cross country to middle schoolers will give you an idea of the kind of shape that I'm in. But I think one of the things that works well on our YouTube channel is I recognize that I'm well past my prime, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm not afraid to get my butt kicked by middle schoolers. I'm not afraid to lose to everybody. I mean, I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone. I'm trying to just have fun. And one of the best compliments I got was from somebody the other day who said, "Nick is the most relatable fitness influencer. Like he's just like me." And then they said dot 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 minus the whole Olympian thing. So like I
Yeah.
want I want the Olympian thing to just be like an asterisk, like a side note. I want people to say, I just like that this guy isn't afraid to try things and isn't afraid to lose and isn't afraid to laugh at himself. I think so often runners take themselves so seriously, especially at the pro level. Pros take themselves so freaking seriously. They have a hard time laughing at themselves. They have a really hard time admitting when they've had a bad race. They've always got some excuse. Oh, well, we haven't started tapering yet. And, oh, I'm coming off of an illness, or I'm coming down from altitude. It's like, just say you had a bad race. It's okay. Everybody has bad races. So I try to just, you know, take that like really sterile, rigid, fearful side of running, and throw that out the window and just show a more playful, self-deprecating, fun side of it.
Well, I think your playful side and the fact that you're not afraid to try new things is just so inspiring to me. I mean, yes, you have that high level running experience. Yes, you're an amazing 800-meter runner, two-time Olympian, but you're also someone who's become a pilot. You've built a YouTube channel with more than 1 million subscribers. And of course, you founded Run Gum. Would you say that it's fair to say that you're not afraid to start new, like big things? I mean, what mentality or mindset, skill set do you think that you have that allows you to do these kinds of things, to pursue these huge goals
Yeah.
and actually accomplish them?
I think it kind of goes a step further. It's not only that I'm not afraid to start big new things, it's that I only want to start big new things. So the problem that I have is I love the creation and the risk that comes with starting a big new thing. I'm really bad at managing those things once they're launched. So a good example is Run Gum. I mean, I would lay in bed till 3 in the morning thinking about this company and how do I make it bigger? How do I get it into Target? How do I get it into Walmart? How do I grow the brand? And that was the fun ramp up phase. And then at some point, it has to actually be managed, like an active business needs to be. So I hired a CEO to manage Run Gum, and now I'm pretty much just a silent investor. And the YouTube channel almost feels like that in some ways as well. Like the ramp up phase, I was obsessed with hitting 1 million subscribers. And then when we got there, I was like, well, now what do I do? So I have to keep reinventing the channel in order to keep inspiring me to get up and keep pushing the boundaries. Like if we're not trying crazy big new things, I'm going to get bored. And as an entrepreneur, the worst thing that can happen is you get bored. You can handle stress, you can handle risk, but most entrepreneurs I know can't handle boredom. And that's one of the things I love most about this YouTube channel is that we can reinvent what the channel is whenever we get bored. So, we just spent $100,000 producing a series called the Impossible Obstacle Course. I built this obstacle course here in Cresswell, Oregon, 7 obstacles designed to test athletes in 7 unique ways. And the first person to win, to complete the course, is going to win $25,000. So this is like taking everything we've learned from the first 1 million subscribers from doing it for 5 years. And now how do we take that to the next level? Because just making running tutorial videos, as fun as that was in the beginning, I eventually got bored. Then making these pop-up running videos was so fun, but we could see a plateau forming. And now we're trying to go to the next level. And that's what YouTube is. What works for you in the beginning isn't going to work for you in the middle, isn't going to work for you on the next level up. And so you have to keep reinventing yourself. And I think that keeps it fresh for me and the team.
Yeah, one of the words you just said that I want to put a highlight in is the word obsession. And I
Yeah.
think, you were talking earlier about your obsession to be the best runner you could be. And you were a man possessed. You were singularly focused. This was your goal. And then when you retired, it seems like Run Gum, that was your thing.
Yes.
You saying, I'm
For
staying up
eight
until 3 in the
years.
morning,
Yeah.
just wondering, how do I get into all these big stores? And now you're obsessed about reaching 1 million YouTube subscribers and you've hit that goal. Is obsession like the key? Because when I look back on my running career, I was obsessed like you at becoming the best runner that I could be. And it
Yeah.
was such a fascinating obsession for me. And
Yeah.
it lasted for a very long time.
I think that's a gift, right? Like not everybody feels what you felt when you were ramping up your running career. Like it's rare to find something that you get so excited about that you physically can't sleep. Like it's 3 a.m. and you're staring at the ceiling and you're like, I can't sleep. I'm so excited about what I get to work on tomorrow. I think most people, they never experience that. They don't get bit by something. You got bit by the running bug. I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug, or now I'm bit by the YouTube bug. It's such a huge gift to feel that level of excitement. You owe it to whoever gave you that gift, whatever force gave you that gift to pursue it. And so as I lie there, once it was Run Gum, now it's YouTube. If you feel that, I just think it's such a huge gift. Don't look that gift horse in the mouth. You got to pursue it with everything you got. And I imagine that will come a point where something else bites me and it's not YouTube, and I'll throw myself wholeheartedly into that. But for some reason, over the last 5 years, this idea of growing this audience and motivating people to get out and be active and have fun with their fitness, it's just been a really like solid motivating sense of purpose for me.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm picking up on too, Nick, is it's almost like no matter what you're doing, yes, you're obsessed with this thing. Yes, you're almost like really interested in seeing what you personally can achieve in all these different areas. Is it also fair to say that you don't really care if you look silly? So, you don't care that you were a D3
Yeah,
runner. You don't care that
yeah,
maybe your running form wasn't, the idealized form.
yeah.
You don't care that you're going to lose to a bunch of middle schoolers in a cross country race. Is there this element of, I'm going to look a little stupid doing this, but who cares? Let's just have
Uh,
some fun.
Jason, I'll be honest. I've looked stupid doing just about everything I've ever attempted. I'm like, I'm just a
You said
goofy.
it, not me, Nick.
Yeah, right. I've heard it enough online, so it's all fine. But like seriously, I think about myself and I'm like, I'm just a short, stocky kid from Idaho who grew up on a farm and wasn't afraid to like look like an idiot. I was kind of the class clown in high school, and I just never minded looking stupid. What I mind is looking like taking myself too seriously. Like anytime I really had to like focus and be serious, it always came off as fake. Like especially as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of times where like I had to put on a suit and pitch to investors, and I always just was like, this is so not me. And my business partner who knows me is like, this is so not you. But I had to play that role, of course. But no, me and my element, I'm in, you know, track joggers and a t-shirt, just looking like an idiot and entertaining kids. And I think I come back to that a lot. The fact that our audience skews young, I think that helps me a lot, because I'm not trying to impress other 39-year-olds. I'm really trying to impress a bunch of 13-year-old kids, and it's fun, like, and they are not taking themselves that seriously, and I don't want them to. I want them to see me not afraid to fail, and to see me, trying to just have fun and try new things. Um, I always joke with my wife. I'm like, my reason for being is to impress a bunch of 13-year-old kids. It's really true though. If you look at our cohort, our audience skews pretty young. 80% is between the ages of 13 and 23. And I want these kids to find that passion and that love for something. It doesn't have to be running, but the way you and I thought about running for so long, I want them to feel that about something. It could be swimming, CrossFit, yoga, cycling. I don't care. I just want that young person to lay in bed at night so excited for their workout tomorrow.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Nick, did your penchant for being the class clown or taking yourself a little too lightly, did that ever get you in trouble? Because I'm the same way, and it's gotten me in trouble more times than I can
Yeah,
probably
I
share
mean,
on this podcast.
there's if you guys remember Frank Gagliano, he was my coach from 2006 to 2008, and he's this gruff old New Yorker with a thick accent, and he is just such a great human being and such a great coach. But he was like it was like herding cats with OTC in the first year. We had 30 athletes. They were all young developmental pros, and we were just such slappies goofing around at practice. I mean, we're pro athletes and we're just goofing around the whole time. And the things that Gags would say to us, I can't repeat on this podcast, but he would just yell the most craziest obscene phrases at us because we were such idiots. And one day, like, he really had to take me aside, and he just said, listen, I know you like to goof around, I know that you're having fun out here. Do you have any idea how good you can be? I'm like, well, I'm already a pro. He's like, no, 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 no. I'm not talking about being a pro. I'm not talking about making an Olympic team. I'm talking about being the best in the world. You actually, he goes, and I've coached a lot of medalists or a lot of Olympians. He said, you actually have what it takes. And hearing that from Frank Gagliano, who at the time had coached more human beings onto US Olympic teams at the middle distance events than anybody else, it just like, whoa. And I would say I came to practice maybe a little bit more focused after that.
Yeah. You could be focused and still be so focused that you know when to focus on being class
Exactly, Jason.
clown.
That's when I talk about periodization. I talk about it a lot in like some of the stuff I've written or the videos I've made. I wanted people when they saw me in the fall to laugh and be like, "That guy is the best on the team. That's the Olympian." Because I was 10 pounds overweight. I was goofing around at practice. I wasn't hitting times that anyone would, write home about. But if you saw me in April or May, 6 months later, you'd be like, oh, okay, now I see. I couldn't focus for 12 months out of the year. Heck, I couldn't even focus for 6 months out of the year. But from May 1st through the end of August, you've never seen somebody more focused. I mean, you would just put your head down and be like, that is the possessed person that makes teams. But I definitely couldn't do that year round. And so in the fall, I was my goofy, just put in the work, put in the miles, but have fun doing it. And then progressively throughout the season, get more and more focused.
I always viewed that as a survival strategy
Yeah,
because
it
look,
is.
running is so hard that if you're taking every run, every workout, even every race, like it's the last run you're ever going to go on and everything
Yeah.
has to go perfectly, that's a really easy way just to get mentally burned
Well, it's
out with your
impossible,
training.
right? No one can
And you
do it.
don't want to run hard after
Yeah.
that.
No one can do it. And I hear all these kids that really want to be successful in the prep level or the collegiate level, and they're like, well, I don't understand. I have to be on for state championship cross country, and I want to win states indoors, and I want to win states outdoors. And I'm like, good luck. That's physically impossible unless you're like, you know, a prep superstar. I say, what's the point of that? Like I would run cross country and I'd take it somewhat seriously. And then I never ran indoors in the high school or collegiate level because I knew I needed that time to recuperate and build another base. So I always say, even if you're running cross country and indoors and outdoors, choose one where you're really, really going to focus and bring a B plus A minus effort to the rest of it. But you really only get one true periodized cycle, and I always chose outdoor track.
Yeah, that's probably the more important season for an 800-meter runner.
Yeah, I mean,
And
if you're a cross country runner, you better peak for cross country. But then you're using indoor and outdoor track as like working on your speed, or working on things that you need to develop. And that's not to say you can't still have a great track season. I'm just saying instead of extending your track season all the way into September, some kids can, you probably should shut it down and start focusing on cross country because that's your meat and potatoes.
yeah, I think this is really good advice for younger runners who might be competing at the high school or the college level that, if you're taking every season so seriously that it's getting to the point where you're worried about every performance,
Yeah,
it's going to be
that's
really
bad.
hard to mentally stay so engaged with your training.
Yeah,
And I think the only reason I was able to run 3 seasons for 8 years of high school and college is because I used to goof around a lot. And
yeah,
while I took races seriously and workouts seriously, I don't think there was a single distance run where I didn't almost fall off the side of the trail laughing
yeah.
hysterically because we were just goofing
It's the
around.
best. That's the best part of the sport, though. Like if you ask me what I miss most about it, not the travel, not the races. I miss goofing around with my buddies in high school. Like we would we would go for these crazy runs along the Boise River, and halfway through we'd stop and swing on the rope swing, and then jog back with waterlogged trainers. I mean, that's really where you fall in love with running, I think.
Yeah, I have so many stories like that from high school and college where, you're not exactly doing 100% of what you should have been doing out on that distance run, but,
Yeah,
it made you fall in love with the sport. And I think
exactly. You fall in
the
love with the
key.
sport. Yeah.
That's the key right there. If you
That's
can
what keeps
fall
you
in love
coming
with the
back, right?
sport.
If you're a 16-year-old kid, you probably don't want to go out and do a 5 mile tempo, but you're going to do it because your team needs you and you love your team, and I think that's where I first learned that maybe I don't love the training, but I love the sport, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, well, speaking of the training, when you retired from competitive running and stopped training, do you think all of that training and the skills that you learned as a pro runner gave you an advantageous skill set for being an entrepreneur? Like what did
Yeah,
you
I get
learn from your running career that you brought into your entrepreneurial life?
I do get that a lot, especially when I'm talking to other entrepreneurs, and they're like, "Well, how did running prepare you for it?" I think not being afraid to fail is probably the superpower of the entrepreneur, where you're like willing to take risk, and a lot of times it doesn't go the way you want it to, and you have to pick yourself up and just keep persevering. I mean, that sounds a heck of a lot like distance running, right? Like, it's not going to always go well. You're going to have to put your head down and do the work and pick yourself up, and just know that if you work hard and you persevere, you will find some level of success. That was my entire running career, and that's been my entire entrepreneurial career. It's not a perfect linear rise to the top. It's this horrible up and down roller coaster of setbacks and disappointments and dusting yourself off and continuing to try new things. Um, there's not a lot that has happened to me as an entrepreneur that has really phased me. It's always felt like playing the same game I was playing. When I dropped out of the path, I was originally going to be a doctor. I would have been a fourth generation surgeon. And I said to my parents, I said, I'm going to put that on the back burner so that I can try to see if I can make this Olympic team in 2 years. I mean, that's the exact same mentality that makes a great entrepreneur. Hey, I know I could go get that cush office job, but I think instead I'm going to work for free at my own startup for the next few years and see if I can build something. It's just the exact same mentality as dropping out of med school to go make an Olympic team. Just take a risk and know that you'd rather take the risk and fail than look back and say, I wonder what I could have done if I'd taken that risk.
Oh yeah, I think I agree with you like 1,000% on the superpower you learn from running is
Yeah,
just the complete okayness with failing. Bad
yeah.
distance run. You didn't quite make it to the bathroom on that long run. How many times have we
Big
all
fail.
had those kinds of fails?
Yeah,
And you're right. Like it seems like the entrepreneurial failures. They're not as acute, that you can't feel it the same way you can feel
yeah,
a running failure, and it
yeah.
really builds you up. So when you think about this roller coaster of ups and downs over the last, 5 to 20 years, is it scarier to run an Olympic final, to start a business and deal with all those challenges, or to ask strangers on Venice Beach to race you while you wear a turtle costume? Like, what's
they
the thing that scares you the most?
they all have their own like moment of anxiousness. Like before we go shoot a video, I always have this feeling of dread because I don't know how the shoot's gonna go, and I always feel this sense of anxiety and like, what if someone gets hurt, or what if no one shows up, or what if it's not a good video? And then when we're in the moment, all of that just disappears because I have to be in the moment and be on camera and make sure that it turns out well. And same with running. I mean, I remember being in the call room, just this overwhelming feeling of what if I run poorly? How will I get back? How will I pick myself up off this track and keep training if I have a bad race right now? Before an Olympics, especially when you may never make it back to that call room, right? Back to that track. You get one shot every 4 years. But I think the scariest is when you're doing it as an entrepreneur. And if there are entrepreneurs out there, know that that's part of the journey, is betting on yourself, taking the gamble, putting your cash on the line. Um, and I think that the scariest part about that is that there's some stuff that's going to be out of your control, right? Like when I step on the track, most of the factors there are in my control. When I go to shoot a video, most of those factors I can control. But as an entrepreneur, you can plan for the smooth path to success, and everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And as an entrepreneur, I assure you, you will be punched in the face many, many times. I always joke when I was the CEO of Run Gum, people said, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "Oh, I'm a firefighter. I literally just go to the office and put out fires all day long." And that's literally pretty much what a CEO at a startup does. It's like, okay, where's the fire today? Like what giant like existential problem does the business face today? And then you just try to figure that out. Um, it's fun, it's exciting, it's scary. Um, but if you're bred to be an entrepreneur, it's because you're laying in bed at night with this idea, and you can't sleep until you test it out. That's how I felt about starting Run Gum, and it's how I felt about starting my YouTube channel. I was just like, I have to see if I can make this work. It wasn't even an option.
Yeah.
Rob Dyrdek had this one great quote. He's a great entrepreneur, and he said, "When people ask me, 'Hey, do I have what it takes to be an entrepreneur?' I say no. And he goes, I don't care if they do or don't. I already know they don't because they asked the question. The entrepreneur doesn't ask that question. The entrepreneur says, I don't know if I have what it takes or not, but I have to try. I physically can't go on living if I don't try. I can't get through a day. I can't sleep at night unless I try to see if I can succeed at this. And I think that's really true. The entrepreneurs that I know, it's not an option. It's not even a question of am I going to do this? It's I'm going to do this. Will I succeed?
Yeah, the way I think about it, Nick, is that entrepreneurialism is not something that you are. You are not an entrepreneur. It's more like a verb. It's something
Yeah.
you do.
I
It's solve
entrepreneur.
problems,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
start things, it's
Yeah.
tinker, it's grow things, like you just are doing things. You don't
Yeah.
have time to ask people, am I going to be a good entrepreneur? Because you're too busy working on
Trying things
something.
out. Yeah. And
Yeah,
and
exactly.
everybody, every single person, if they asked me that, I'd say not only are you a good entrepreneur, but you're also a very bad entrepreneur in any given moment, right? Like there are things about me that you would say, dang, he is such a good entrepreneur. And there are things about me where you're like, he is the worst entrepreneur ever because no one person has the skill set to do everything, right? And I think maybe that if you wanted to chalk up one of my characteristics or traits that you would put in the good entrepreneur category, it's that I recognize that. And I know the things that I'm bad at and I'm willing to hire that out. That's a good starting point of an entrepreneur is to know your own weaknesses.
Well, no matter what you're doing, Nick, it's a great journey for all of us to witness, whether it's your running, Run Gum, your YouTube channel. I'm curious what you're up to next. You mentioned some kind of a very intense obstacle course race. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more about that? Is this
Well,
open? Can we try it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I love to give my subscribers what they want. And last year I asked, hey, if I could build anything for you, what would you want to see? And they said, build us a Ninja Warrior course. And I just was like, oh my gosh, you guys know how expensive those are to build. But I was able to find some cheap shelf space here in Crestwell, Oregon, near Eugene, and rented 12,000 square feet. Got all the lumber and the materials, and I built a obstacle course. Think of it like a Ninja Warrior course meets a CrossFit competition. Um, and I wanted it to be that way because I think Ninja Warrior courses really test grip strength and upper body strength, and I wanted this to be more well-rounded. Um, 7 obstacles designed to test athletes in 7 unique ways. The first person to complete it is going to win $25,000. It's called the Impossible Obstacle Course for a reason. No one has ever completed it. I've completed 6 of the 7 obstacles, but that seventh one's a doozy, and I know it can be
Can you
done.
tell us which one is a doozy?
The warped wall. I've built the toughest warped wall in America. And there's some good warped walls out there. This one's a doozy. It's tough. It's 14 and a half feet tall. It's got a monster curve, and at the top are a set of keys that unlock a glass case full of $25,000. So visually very stunning. My goal on any of these YouTube videos is just to see who's been training. I always sign off. I say, you guys better be training because it pays to be fit. I want to see who's been training. This obstacle course will show you who has been training and who hasn't.
Cool. So, are you going to hold like a big competition at some
Yeah,
point? Is
great
there, I
question.
don't feel like I've seen a video about it, have I?
No, we've been super top secret on this because once the cat's out of the bag, I'm going to have athletes from around the world trying to come compete. And so I really wanted this to be fair for everybody. And so on Friday, March 3rd, I will drop a video showcasing the course, showcasing the obstacles and how you do them. And then we already right now have announced the competition dates. If you download the Nick Symmonds Fit app, it's available on all devices. You have to go to nicksymmondsfitapp.com. You can download it for your phone. And in there is not only a tutorial on how to do the obstacles, but also a competition schedule. So it's open to the public. The location, dates, and times of the course openings, of the shoot dates are available there in the app. So if you live anywhere in the world and want to participate, it is open to you. Come down, show us what you got. You might be winning $25,000.
That is so exciting. Well, Nick, I wish I could make it to Oregon, but I'm going to include a link to the announcement video in the
Yeah,
show notes on strength running because
perfect.
we are recording this before it's gone live,
Oh,
but
that's even
it will
better
be
because right
published.
now you're listening and you're like, I really want to see what this course is made of. Go to my YouTube channel and the video is live. and you can see. You actually be able to see some competitors running it tonight. We're going to do a soft opening. Some of my CrossFit buddies are going to play around on it. We'll show you how they do.
Oh, this is exciting, especially because you're such a showman. You're putting 25 grand in a locked case. I mean, that's so
Yeah.
exciting. That's gonna be
Hey, that's
great.
YouTube, right? Like it's got to be good on camera or it doesn't count.
And that's more prize money than a lot of professional road races out there.
Oh
So this is
yeah.
going to draw some people.
That's the idea. I knew that like just in the area we have some great athletes, but I wanted to make the course tough enough that it would take a few weeks to find the right athlete that could do this. And I'm already seeding it with some of the world's greatest CrossFitters, the world's greatest OCR racers, former American Ninja Warrior champions. Like if I just told them that there was an obstacle course, some people would show up. If I told them the first person to complete this is going to win 25 grand, they're buying tickets and flying in specifically for this event.
Well, it sounds really exciting, Nick. Congrats on the next evolution of your YouTube channel and all your fun adventures that you're planning. It's just been really exciting to follow along over the last better part of a decade. And I can't
Yeah,
wait for the
thank
next
you.
7+ years too.
Yeah, and congrats to you. If we're at 290 now, we should check in again at, help me with the math, 560.
Yeah, it's going to be at least, I need you in every 289 episodes.
Perfect. Put me on the calendar. I'm there for it.
All right, it'll be like 2027.
Love it.
All right, Nick. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you talking a little shop about your mindset and, the way you think about running and fitness and training and entrepreneurialism. This has been really fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.